Welcome to episode 266 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Law Sky. It's July 24, 2000. Madrid, and Luís Figo becomes a Real Madrid player, not from Inter, not from Milan, not from Manchester United, but from Barcelona. Barcelona's captain, Barcelona's star, Barcelona's symbol, to Real Madrid. Imagine Lamine Yamal in 2026 leaving Barcelona for Real Madrid, not someday at 34, but now, as the face of Barça, La Masia, the number 10, the future. That's the kind of emotional category we're in. Figo made the impossible move. But how did we get here? Start with rivalries. Football rivalries do not all come from the same place. Sometimes their geography, Inter and Milan, Roma and Lazio, Boca and River, Benfica and Sporting, Partizan and Crvena Zvezda, Peñarol and Nacional. Sometimes their class, religion, politics, ethnicity, or social history. Celtic and Rangers are never only 11 against 11. Sometimes they are origin stories. Everton and Liverpool are famous examples. Everton used to play at Anfield. Then came the dispute with John Holding, Anfield's owner and Everton's president. Everton left. Holding had a ground without a team, so Liverpool Football Club was born. That rivalry have often carried the friendly derby label because families and neighborhoods overlap, but its beginning is still wonderfully football. A rent dispute becomes a century of identity. Then there are rivalries that are not really local at all. Barcelona and Real Madrid are not from the same city, of course. They are separated by geography, politics, language, history, and the emotional architecture of Spain. Real Madrid become associated with the capital, the center, the state, the monarchy, the establishment, and later, fairly or unfairly, with the international image of Franco Spain. Barcelona become més que un club, more than a club, a vehicle for Catalan identity, a place where language, region, memory, and resistance could attach themselves to football. But we should be careful here. The history is not a cartoon. Real Madrid were not simply Franco's team, and Barcelona were not simply noble resistance in every chapter, but the symbolism became real. Madrid versus Barcelona, center versus periphery, Castilian power versus Catalan identity. And then on top of that, two of the biggest football clubs on earth. That is El Clásico. Now put Luís Figo inside it. Figo arrives at Barcelona in 1995 from Sporting. Even that move has drama. He had signed conflicting agreements in Italy with Juventus and Parma, was banned from Italian football for 2 years, and ended up at Barça. In Catalonia, he becomes elite, strong, direct, technical, two-footed, explosive. A winger who could beat you, cross, shoot, and carry a team's arrogance. Barcelona win the Cup Winners' Cup in 97. They win La Liga in 98. They win it again in 99. So by 2000, Figo is not just a player, he's the face. Rivaldo is there too, of course, but Figo is the captain, the one who understands the shirt, the one the Camp Nou thinks belongs to them. Then comes Real Madrid politics. Florentino Pérez is running for president. The incumbent, Lorenzo Sanz, has just delivered 2 Champions Leagues in 3 years. Normally, that should be enough. But Pérez has a weapon, a promise. If elected, he will bring Luís Figo from Barcelona. And if he can't, he will pay Real Madrid members season ticket fees. It sounds absurd, and that is why it works. Because supporters hear the promise and think, either we get Figo or we get our tickets paid. Pérez doesn't negotiate with Barcelona. He can't. Barcelona would never sell Figo to Real Madrid voluntarily. So the only path is the release clause, 60 million euros, 10 billion pesetas, a world record fee. Behind the scenes, the story becomes almost spy fiction. Paulo Futre, the former Portuguese star, acts as an intermediary. José Veiga, Figo's agent, is central. A conditional agreement is signed. If Pérez wins, Figo must go to Real Madrid. If he doesn't, someone owns a huge penalty. Figo later insists he didn't fully understand or authorize everything around the agreement. Others tell it differently. That is part of why the story never dies. There is no clean version here. There's only the fact that the impossible becomes legally possible. Then Pérez wins, and suddenly the joke is not a joke anymore. Figo is trapped inside the machinery. Barcelona's new president, Joan Gaspart, cannot stop Madrid from paying the clause. The fans rage. Figo had denied he was leaving. But now he's leaving. On July 24, 2000, the move becomes real. Barcelona to Real Madrid, the impossible shirt change, the first Galáctico. The transfer that doesn't just move a player, it moves the market, it moves presidential politics, it moves the emotional boundaries of the sport. A few months later, Figo returns to the Camp Nou, in white. The noise is extraordinary. Whistles, insults, banners, banknotes, objects. A stadium trying to expel one man by sound. Barcelona win 2-0. That night gives them some revenge, but not closure. The real image comes later, November 2002. Figo returns again with Real Madrid. He goes to take a corner. Objects rain down, bottles, lighters, coins, and most famously, a pig's head. A pig's head on the grass. That is the level of betrayal Barcelona supporters feel. Not transfer disappointment, not sadness, but desecration. So what? For Real Madrid, Figo launches the Galácticos. This is the beginning of Florentino Pérez's model. Buy the biggest names, turn footballers into global assets, make Real Madrid the center of attention every summer. Figo in 2000, Zidane in 2001, Ronaldo in 2002, Beckham in 2003. Later, in the second Pérez era, Cristiano Ronaldo, Kaká, Benzema, Bale. The theory is simple. Stars are expensive, but attention is more valuable. Figo proves the method. He wins the Ballon d'Or in 2000. He wins FIFA World Player of the Year in 2001. He wins La Liga with Madrid. He wins the Champions League in 2002. Sportingly, the move works. Emotionally, it never heals. That is the trade. Figo gains Madrid, trophies, money, and history. But he loses Barcelona forever. For Barca, the wound becomes part of the road to renewal. The Gaspart years are hard, chaotic, expensive, painful. The money from Figo is spent on players like Marc Overmars and Emmanuel Petit, but the soul is not replaced by transfer accounting. Eventually comes Laporta, Ronaldinho, Rijkaard, then Messi, Xavi, Iniesta, and Guardiola. Barcelona rebuilt not by buying another Figo, but by rediscovering an identity. That may be the deeper lesson here. A club can lose a superstar. It cannot survive long if it loses its idea of itself. Figo becomes the reference point for every impossible move after him, and before him. Bernd Schuster had already crossed from Barcelona to Real Madrid in 1988, then later to Atletico Madrid. Michael Laudrup moved from Barcelona to Real Madrid in 1994, and as we talked about back in episode 68, Laudrup is part of one of football's strangest mirror images. Barcelona 5, Real Madrid 0 in 94. Real Madrid 5, Barcelona 0 in 95. Same player, different shirt, different humiliation. But Figo still feels bigger because of timing, because of the clause, because of the presidency, because of television, because he was the captain. Beyond Spain, there are other impossible moves. Johnston in 1989, former Celtic striker, expected to return to Celtic, but then Rangers sign him. A Catholic signing for Rangers at that historical moment is not only football, it is Glasgow's social history exploding through a transfer. Then Sol Campbell, Tottenham captain, homegrown, Spurs symbol, contract expires, and in 2001 he joins Arsenal on a free transfer. That free matters because there's no fee to soften the betrayal, no compensation, just a player crossing North London and then winning major trophies in red. A few days ago, I spoke about Oscar Ruggieri, moving from Boca to River. There's Roberto Baggio from Fiorentina to Juventus in 1990, which caused riots in Florence. Johan Cruyff, after Ajax refused him the contract he wants, joins Feyenoord and wins the Eredivisie. Carlos Tevez goes from Manchester United to Manchester City, and the blue side of Manchester welcomes him with a famous billboard. Luis Enrique goes to Real Madrid. From Real Madrid to Barcelona, becomes the Barca warrior. Ronaldo, from Barcelona to Inter, then back to Real Madrid, not directly, but still into the rivalry's bloodstream. And coaches can do it too. Leonardo, Milan icon, becomes Inter coach in 2010, which was OTD episode 54. George Graham, Arsenal's title-winning manager, later manages Tottenham. When a coach crosses, it can feel like the club's brain has defected. Now come back to 2026. Could a Figo happen today? Could Lamine Yamal really leave Barcelona for Real Madrid? Legally, yes, if the mechanism exists and someone pays what must be paid. Emotionally, almost unthinkable. He is La Masia. He is Barcelona's number 10. He's under contract to 2031. He carries Rocafonda, youth, Catalonia, Spain, the post-Messi imagination all at once. And because this is 2026, the transfer will not unfold through newspapers, radio, hotel lobbies, and presidential whispers. It would be live. Every rumor on X, every flight tracked, every agent followed, every emoji decoded, every old Instagram post turned into evidence. The outrage would arrive before the transfer does. That is the difference. Figo's move happened at the edge of the modern football economy. A world record fee, a presidential campaign, a superstar as a commercial weapon, but before social media had made every supporter a live investigator. In 2026, the impossible move would be harder to hide, but maybe easier to monetize. That is the uncomfortable ending. Football always tells itself some moves cannot happen. But then money, law, ego, agents, politics, and ambition gather in one room, and impossible becomes a press conference. Before we go, 3 things to take away from July 24, 2000. First, Figo's move was not just Barcelona to Real Madrid. It was captain to enemy, symbol to symbol, Catalonia to Castilian power, Camp Nou to Bernabeu. Second, the transfer changed Real Madrid. It brought Florentino Pérez to power and launched the Galácticos model, the idea that superstar footballers could be sporting assets and global economic engines. Third, impossible moves are never only about the player. They expose what the rivalry is made of: geography, class, religion, politics, money, memory, and the fans' belief that some people are not supposed to leave. On this day in 2000, Luís Figo became a Real Madrid player. Barcelona lost its captain. Madrid gained its first Galáctico, and football learned that even the impossible has a release clause. That is all for episode 266 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Lost Guy. You'll be amazed at how the podcast algorithm works. OTD gets pushed in front of new people when you subscribe, rate it 5 stars, or share it with your friends. It really helps, so thank you for doing that. Tomorrow, go to July 25, 1976, when Defensor broke Peñarol and Nacional's 44-year duopoly and won the Uruguayan Championship. See you then.